How many of you were confirmed in a church? How many of you who were confirmed in a church stopped going to church after you were confirmed? Oh, thank you for, man, at the 8:30 service, like the entire service, like raised their hand. Like, I think that says a little something between the 8:30 and the 10 o'clock people there. So there is a long-standing tradition in Protestant churches that when youth are confirmed, that pretty much ends their spiritual journey. They've got it all figured out. Thank you very much. You've got nothing else to teach me, and we don't get to see them again for a long, long, long period of time. And that is not just a recent phenomenon. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who many of you know was a German theologian and teacher who resisted the Nazi movement in 1930s and 1940s Germany, was also a wonderful teacher of confirmation in his local Lutheran church. And in his diary, he writes about how much joy teaching confirmation class to youth brought him. It was one of his favorite things to do. But also in that journal is his lamentations that when the youth graduated from confirmation, that he hardly ever saw them at church again. So this is a long-standing tradition and not something that we necessarily need to fret about. The church has been dealing with it for a long period of time because confirmation is kind of our coming-of-age ceremony. At 12 or 13 years old, we're telling young women and men that they have the responsibility to sort of be in charge of their own spiritual and faith journey at that point. And we're not the only tradition to have a coming-of-age ceremony at all. Those who grow up Amish, when they turn 18 or 19, go on what's called a Rumspringa. And a Rumspringa is a coming-of-age ceremony that happens over 2 years, in which at 18 or 19, young men and women of the Amish community leave the colony, the compound, and go out into this crazy, crazy world. That's our world, that hectic, busy world that we live in, to decide whether or not they want to continue to be Amish or return to the community. They have a return rate of about 98%. If you were a young Apache girl, you might participate in what's called a sun rising ceremony. It happens at 11 or 12 or 13 years old, whenever a young woman starts to go into puberty. And it is a 4-day ceremony which celebrates the birth and of the power of creativity and creation within women. And they are set apart in the community in this beautiful 4-day ceremony. It truly is going in a girl and coming out a woman, but they are lauded and celebrated for this power that the Creator has given each and every one of them. Of course, many of us have Jewish friends who have, little boys and little girls, and they have bar or bat mitzvahs, which are very similar to our confirmation year. The bat mitzvah or the bar mitzvah is a time that young Jewish boys and girls prepare for personal responsibility, for following God's law, and they are no longer subject to their parents' following of the law. They have been given the opportunity and responsibility to follow God's laws and statutes themselves. Now, those are religious ceremonies that you may or may not be familiar with. But the idea here is that they are to prepare us for a time of personal growth and going on a spiritual journey ourselves. But there are probably secular coming-of-age ceremonies that were much more prevalent and we're much more familiar with. Can you think of any coming-of-age ceremony that happens in sort of the universal society and culture? Jody? Quinceañera. Now, if you are a Latina, you definitely have a quinceañera, which is a beautiful ceremony, somewhat akin to what happens in the white community as a Sweet 16 party, but not exactly, but close. But is there anything more universal, not just Latino or Latino? Is there something a little bit more universal that we can think of? Mally? Getting your driver's license, of course. Is there anything that symbolizes freedom more than your driver's license? No longer do you have to wait on your mom and dad to get you around. You are an adult. You have responsibilities. You can get yourself from point A to point B with point C to Z, all the way in between. Driver's license, of course. Can we think of another one? Dean. Being able to vote when you're 18. That's a very important one. One that many of our country do not participate in, but that is given a right and a privilege to be able to vote. Any others?
Legal drinking age.
Oh, of course. Of course, legal drinking age. I love where your mind is going, Kay Marie. That's great. That's wonderful.
I was just in Europe.
You were just in Europe, where it's a much younger age there. Yes. Anything? High school graduation, of course, high school graduation. We probably weren't thinking of that because we were drinking. Of course, high school graduations. So graduation and driver's license, those are the ones that I think most of us participate in more than any other. And you have to take tests, and you have to prepare for them, and you pass them. And this is the getting of the license or walking across the stage is a prerequisite of us saying to you, you have the knowledge and the skill set to make it on your own. At 18, 17, 19 years old, the message of a graduation is you have the skills to make it on your own. Do any of us actually believe that 17, 18-year-old young people have the skill set to make it on their own? But all of these things, if we add the drinking age and the voting rights, come to us by 21, 22 years old. You get a diploma, you get a driver's license, you get a voter registration card, and you're good to go. Good luck. Responsibility is yours. Don't screw it up. But the problem with that message that our culture provides to young people, that you have come to a time, an impasse, from this point on, you are an adult, you have your own responsibility, you are on your own, is that we often, very soon after being given that responsibility, we make a grave mistake. And according to Carl Jung, the wonderful psychoanalyst, he says that when we are given responsibility at such a young age and we make a drastic mistake, there is the opportunity for us to go into isolation because of the irrevocable harm that we feel at that young age we have caused others. Carl Jung is reported to have said that it can be crippling to give young people that sort of responsibility and saying to them, you are on your own. And it leads to what Jung considers to be isolation. Isolation is one believes that they have made an error in judgment that has caused such irrevocable harm that they sever connection with other people. They have such guilt and such shame over the harm that they cause that they no longer want to be in community with others. The antidote to isolation, according to Jung, is connection. Feeling connected to another person, feeling connected to a community, feeling connected to a power greater than ourselves. Solomon is 20 years old. His father, David, has died and has named him, publicly named Solomon before his death as the new king of Israel. But because Solomon is not the oldest of the sons, his older brothers have a claim and a right to the throne that Solomon actually doesn't. And so a civil war sparks, and then Solomon wins. Solomon is probably 21 years old. He should be just about getting his college diploma when he's been handed and to sit on the throne. He shouldn't be running a country. We've just heard the Republican debate. We're going to hear the Democratic one in a couple of weeks. How many of us would actually vote for a 20-year-old? Well, maybe the candidates that already started to run, maybe, but how many of us would actually vote for a 20-year-old to run the country? And yet that's what Solomon finds himself in. He is in way over his head with responsibility. Grave responsibility has been thrust upon him to run a country, improve the economy, be a military leader, provide a culture where people can be taken care of. And he also has wealth and power and fame. This has the potential to go very badly. One grave mistake may drive him into isolation. And how many times in history have we seen an isolated leader with power and wealth and fame turn out badly? So Solomon goes to Gibeon to pray and to worship. And in the midst of what might be described as a coming-of-age ceremony or going on a spirit quest, Solomon has a visit from God in a dream, and God asks Solomon, "What do you want?" Now, Joseph Campbell, the great scholar of mythology and myth-making, says that this is the anti-genie in a lamp story. Circulating around the time of Solomon would have been this ancient story of lucky people who have gone to a bazaar and pulled out a lamp and rubbed it, and a genie has come out and says, "I'll grant you 3 wishes." And what does the person inevitably ask for? Power, wealth, fame. The person is a fool, and it turns out badly. So this is the anti-genie in the lamp story. Notice that when God asked Solomon, "What do you want? I will grant you your wish," Solomon asks for guidance. He doesn't even ask for wisdom to be like God, to know what God knows, because that would have a sense of hubris and selfishness in it. No, Solomon asks for God to guide him through his life so that he can have as much ability to choose between good and evil so he can what? Take care of others. There is an altruism to what Solomon is asking for. He isn't asking for this for himself. He's asking that he could be provided this gift so he can help others. It is the anti-genie in the lamp story, which is all about me and my wants and my dreams. If you won the lottery today, what would you do with the money? In the Disney version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is one of the darkest Disney movies ever, the character Esmeralda finds herself being jostled about on the Parisian streets, and so she walks into the cathedral as morning mass is happening to get away from the hordes of Parisians marching down the Parisian street side. As others are coming into the mass, she, in a song, begins to sing what they're praying for. And their song echoes the foolishness of the man or the woman who finds the magic lamp in the bazaar. Her song goes, she's naming what they're praying for. I ask for wealth. I ask for fame. I ask for glory to shine on my name. I ask for love I can possess. I ask for God and his angels for me to bless. It is all about me, my wants, my desires, make me famous, rich, beautiful. But then, in contrast, Esmeralda, as if she was a child of Solomon, thinking not of herself, offers prayers for others. I ask for nothing, for I can get by, but I know so many lucky less than I. God, help my people, the poor and downtrodden. I thought we were all children of God. She is basing her prayer in the wisdom of Solomon, an altruism, a compassion, a grace, looking out for others more for our own needs. That is the basis of wisdom according to this story. So what is wisdom? Wisdom, according to the book of Proverbs, which is attributed to this wise King Solomon, speaks of the personification of wisdom as a woman who invites all to her table for a feast of bread and meat and wine. Wisdom invites everyone, but according to the book of Proverbs, so precious few actually claim the invitation. Wisdom is something more. According to Proverbs, wisdom is more than knowledge. It's more than intelligence. It's more than information or advice. It's a quality that we often attribute to the aged, not because the young can't be wise, but because there seems to be, and often is, the product of years of observation and reflection, mixed with compassion and humility. Compassion mixed with information, mixed with compassion. Humility gained through realization that we're part of something bigger. We're connected to all of humanity. We're connected to the earth. And all people share in pain and need in one part of their life. And there's always going to be a time when we will ache for that incompleteness that is in our life. Though much of what God bestowed on Solomon may not be what we find appealing in the 21st century here in America, wisdom shines like a bright star in the dark of night, and it guides us along our journey. So if we wanted to be wise or wiser people, is there anything that we can do? First off, the start of being a wise person, the groundwork for being a wise person is to recognize, and this is going to be hard for some of us, we don't have all the answers. Well, Mick does. Maybe Mick does, but Mick is the only one. We don't have all the answers. The basis of wisdom is to begin with the phrase and the affirmation, I am not wise. And that opens us up to receiving the gift of guidance and wisdom as we walk through life. So how do we get that? Once we've cleared out the hubris and selfishness of saying that I've got the answers, how do we start to receive wisdom? May I suggest you find yourself a good mentor. It doesn't matter how old we are, whether we're 9 or 92. Doesn't matter if we're male or female, rich or old, or rich or poor, young or old. We can all use a good mentor in our life. A good mentor is someone who has an objectivity to us. So your spouse or partner might not be the best choice. They're too invested in you. But a good mentor has an objectivity about them, which can tell you like it is. And they provide another way of looking at the world, which is different from your own, that will open up your way of looking and allow you to use their wisdom and incorporate it into your life. I have been blessed with great mentors. Ed Middleton and Steve Sprinkle and Bill Johnson. So many colleagues and wonderful congregation members through my 15 years of ministry who have been only too eager to share with me their wisdom, and I am blessed and thankful for it. We don't have to figure it out all on our own. So find yourself a good mentor. And if I was going to ask you to come up with the name of your mentor right now, don't think about it. Say it right off the top of your head. Do you have one? If the answer is no, may I invite you to start looking for one? So the first step is to admit that we don't have all the answers. The second step is to find ourselves a mentor. The third step is to start or maybe restart, if you've stopped recently or sometime in the past, a profound, intentional prayer life. Set aside 10 minutes a day with no one else around. Turn off the phone, the computer, the TV, and for 10 minutes, pray the Lord's Prayer, or the prayer of St. Francis, or the Serenity Prayer, or the prayer of Thomas à Kempis, or sit in silence and connect with that deep well of wisdom, that major chord which echoes through the universe that connects us, past, present, and future, with something sacred and divine. You'll be surprised what answers to the confounding questions we have in life are given to us when we intentionally pray. So, first step, I don't have all the answers. Second step, find yourself a mentor. Third step, clear out the clutter in life for 10 minutes to pray. And finally, have courage to act on your convictions, to answer to your question. Because eventually you're going to receive something that's going to say, I got to do this. And inertia is a killer to living a wise life. So do it. Act with courage and conviction. And then when that goes horribly wrong, don't be hard on yourself. Failure is an important tool to a wise life. So graciously accept that wasn't the best choice. I wish I could have done it differently. And then start to. And then when that goes horribly wrong, graciously accept that that wasn't the best decision. Talk to your mentor. Pray about it. And then act again. And repeat. And repeat. And repeat. That's the spirit journey that we're all on. We do a disservice to our confirmands to tell them that we've given them the keys, that they're on their own. It's all up to you now. We do a disservice at graduation and driver's license and voter registrations. We definitely do that with drinking. Because responsibility can be crippling and isolating if we don't do it connected to each other, to community, and with God. That is the wise words of Solomon's wish, that we would all lead a wise life, filled with compassion and grace, courage to act, forgiveness, and connection. That's the good news this day, brothers and sisters. You wise, wonderful children of God. Amen and amen.